They say when a man has walked through fire before, he can smell the smoke long before the flames rise again. And for Boosie badass, Torrance Hatch, that smell hit different this time. If God want me free, he gonna keep me free. If not, I'm going to jail. That's just how it is. That line wasn't bravado. It was resignation. Because Boosie's been here before, dancing on the edge of fame and federal time. The confession. On August 4th, he broke the news himself, not through TMZ or a lawyer's leak, but straight to the fans on X. I have accepted a plea deal from the federal government regarding my gun case. God doesn't make mistakes, and I'm tired of fighting. That post hit like a confession from the pulpit. The exhaustion in his words told a story deeper than any headline could. For more than a year, Boosie's life has been a tug-of-war between freedom and a system that seemed determined to make an example out of him. All of it traced back to two pistols, a black Glock 19 and a black and purple Hellcat, the heart of the government's case. Prosecutors said those guns crossed state lines. And just like that, a technicality became a felony. On paper, the Baton Rouge legend faced up to 15 years. But prosecutors were recommending 2 years in prison and 3 more on supervised release. A man like Boosie might shrug and say, I can do 2 years standing on my head. But every day behind bars is a lifetime when your career lives off shows, streams, and headlines. The calm before the verdict. In an interview, someone told him, there's a good chance you'll just get probation or time served. Boosie nodded and said calmly, it's up to the judge to give me credit for my ankle monitor. That single line said everything, a man trying to sound hopeful while knowing his fate was already being written. Because this wasn't just about a traffic stop. To see how it all fell apart, we have to rewind, back to San Diego, June 2023. The setup. Boosie had just finished shooting a music video. The block was lit, cars, cameras, chaos, classic Boosie energy. But high above, a police helicopter tailed him as he left the scene. Not a coincidence. Authorities were already watching his Instagram. Earlier that same day, he'd posted himself flashing a gun tucked in his waistband. A problem when you're a convicted felon. Moments later, San Diego PD pulled him over. The search was surgical. 2 handguns in the vehicle, both traced back across state lines. Reports later claimed an associate had checked those same weapons onto a flight from Atlanta to San Diego. To prosecutors, it was gift-wrapped evidence. Round 1. The state case. The first charges landed in California State Court. For months, Boosie fought back, leaning on faith and his fans. And to everyone's surprise, the state dropped the case. Boosie walked out grinning, telling reporters, 90% of people thought I was going to prison. But God had a different plan. It felt like vindication. But that different plan turned out to be the cruelest twist yet. Because just weeks later, the feds came knocking. Same evidence, harder court, no easy exits. What looked like freedom was really just a pause before the storm. Enter Charleston White. And as the headlines spread, one man was waiting to pounce. Charleston White. You know Charleston, a one-man circus with Wi-Fi, a grudge, and no filter. He'd made a career out of taunting rappers, and Boosie was his favorite target. The moment news of the plea broke, Charleston went live, laughing, dancing, celebrating like he'd just won a championship. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail. For Charleston, this wasn't tragedy. It was content. He poured gasoline on the story, claiming he'd been praying for this day. And he didn't stop there. In one of his darkest rants, Charleston said he hoped Boosie never made it home from behind bars. Yeah, he actually said that on camera. When fans called him out, Charleston hid behind his usual excuse. I'm just playing a character. But nobody was laughing. Even hardened fans of internet beef had to admit that one crossed a line. A showman under siege. Meanwhile, Boosie tried to act like nothing had changed. He told fans sentencing was months away and that he'd still be performing until the very last day. So, I'm gonna be at every show, of course, he said on Instagram. But the bravado felt forced. Behind the smiles and sold-out pool parties, you could hear the tension in his voice. He dropped a new album, Words of a Real One, not just to make money, but as a lifeline. He begged fans to keep him in their prayers, to support the record, to help him prove he was still the same Boosie. On social media, though, it became open season. Trolls flooded his comments. Others mocked his family. Charleston even joked about Boosie's baby mama having to pump milk for visitation. It was cruel, calculated, and viral. Every time Boosie tried to rise above it, Charleston dragged him right back into the mud. The spotlight trap. Here's the irony. Boosie built his brand on realness, the unfiltered truth of a street survivor who never bowed to the system. But now, that same spotlight had become a cage. Every post, every live stream, every quote was twisted into evidence of arrogance or guilt. And with sentencing inching closer, even the smallest flex could look like defiance to a federal judge. Still, Boosie couldn't stop performing. It was the only thing keeping him sane. The stage had become his therapy. He wasn't just fighting for freedom anymore. He was fighting to stay seen. The turning point. By late summer 2024, the narrative had shifted. What started as a legal battle was now a morality play. Boosie Badass versus Charleston White. Redemption versus revenge. One man trying to find peace before sentencing. The other, feeding on chaos, determined to keep him from ever finding it. Fans divided overnight. Some said Charleston was exposing hypocrisy. Others saw a man obsessed, consumed by hate for a rapper who refused to fold. And somewhere in the middle stood Boosie, praying, performing, pretending he wasn't scared. End of part 1. As the countdown to sentencing began, one question lingered louder than any beat or live stream rant. Was Boosie Badass still fighting the system, or just fighting himself? Part 2 dives into what happened next. Charleston's escalation, Boosie's son's arrest, and the shocking fallout that made this feud feel less like rap beef and more like generational warfare.
Stay tuned.